All right. Hello, everyone, coast to coast, worldwide. I'm Eric Matei. Welcome to this episode of Akrinos Access Live. And I'm so excited for this episode as we're welcoming the one and only Dr. Kristie Nguyen to the program. Dr. Nguyen, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you again for having me, Eric, but super nervous as always.
Well, then let's go ahead and jump right in. And, you said every time we connect and we do something like this, you always say that. And I think it's important, maybe perhaps the first thing for our viewers to be aware of is that, hey, we all have times that we get nervous. By the way, don't ask me to show off my sleeves, right? It's natural. It's all part of the process. And it's really
Exactly.
something that we really want to do here today is bring out that authenticity and really get after it in helping one another empower one another to really plan, develop, and launch that personal brand. So, Dr. Nguyen, I know we've got a lot of really great things that we're going to jump into today. So, what do you say we kind of kick it all off by, let's just kind of start by just, asking that big question of how do you define personal brand and why is it so important?
Well, your personal brand is basically who you are as a person and how you want to be portrayed on social media, because it can be you can be anybody basically once you put yourself out there, and that's what your personal brand will stand for, what you want to represent, and that's how you want to build it. And it's important because from then people will know who you are, and they would more likely be more comfortable with you if you have any products or services that you want to promote. They'll be more likely to purchase or buy from you.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. By the way, that little change in the light has, I guess, a little something to do with personal brand. And that is that I love to do videos. And my ring light today has decided, well, we need to cool down a little bit, but we're going to carry on. Okay. So we started this by talking about, again, like defining personal brand and why is it so important? And in the context of that, Dr. Nguyen, before going live here, we're talking about kind of like these three core areas that we want to discuss here today. And it's going to start with just talking about developing your vision. From there, we're going to jump into applying that vision and growing your network. And then we're going to wrap it up and really talk about owning your presence. And in this digital age, some really remarkable ways you can leverage tech in growing and promoting that personal brand and owning your presence. So let's go ahead and start by talking about developing your vision. So for starters, Dr. Nguyen, how do you define vision and what role does that play in establishing that personal brand?
Well, your vision is basically your why, your reason why you want to grow or expand. And once you can narrow down exactly and pinpoint what that is, that will help drive your motivation on a day-to-day basis. And the thing is that's unique is that your why can change. It doesn't always have to stay the same, because once you accomplish or reach that first why, then your why can actually grow and develop into a new why. So it grows with you. So you have to decide what your why is first, determine what that is. And if you can't figure that out on your own, there are coaches out there who can actually, help you uh, figure out what that is.
Absolutely. So, okay. So look, what we're talking about this vision and discovering your why. Please do share. I mean, I know you and I have connected and I'm fascinated by your story, but please, for those that maybe have not come to know you and your story just yet, share with them a little bit about your story, how you discovered your why and your vision.
Well, my initial why is just to graduate optometry school and start a family. And I did that. And I never created a new why afterwards. So I kind of went through a period of burnt out after about 10 plus years of working as an optometrist and having a family. So that basically kind of led me to feeling kind of stuck, irritated, and frustrated. And I remember just praying about it. And, when you pray, God answers you in very mysterious ways. And he presented in my lap at that time a direct sell opportunity. And I figured I would never be in a direct sell opportunity because for the most part, these are basically scams or I have to sell something and I'm an introvert. I don't want to be on camera. So, but I kept praying and the opportunity he put in my lap, and I figured, well, if this is what he wanted to present to me, I'm going to go ahead and open up my heart, open up my awareness, and just kind of embrace it and just figure out how to make it work for a year. And from there, I learned all these wonderful skills on to how to personally brand myself on social media. And I applied those on a day-to-day basis. I worked really hard that first year, tuning into my leaders on a daily basis, listening to what they have to teach, implementing it, because that's the second hardest part is implementing. If you learn but you don't implement, there's nothing that's going to come to fruition. So I had to implement some of the things that I felt very uncomfortable doing, such as being on camera. And I posted a couple times a day, multiple times a week, just to get my voice out there. And it took years. A lot of people who look at my journey, they just say, oh, you've always been, in the limelight. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've been doing this for years. And it wasn't until before COVID hit that one company reached out to me and asked me to be their brand ambassador. And it almost became like a snowball effect. After one company asked me, somebody else asked me, somebody else asked me after that. And the next thing I know, over the last couple of years, I've just been, recognized for all the hard work I've been putting in prior to that. That's kind of how my journey started and how it is currently.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing because, you know, a common theme that you mentioned there, I know you mentioned earlier before we went live, was this commitment, right?
Yes.
It's discovering your why, discovering your vision, but also being committed to it, right?
Yes.
And the discipline and purpose, and living with purpose and intent in growing that. Because absolutely, it does not. Nothing happens overnight, right? I mean, even
Nothing.
optometry school. I'm sure you could share more stories from going through school as everyone, right? In everyone's
Yes.
respective
Yes.
path, no matter where you are. And look, to the viewers out there, no matter where you are in your career, no matter what your objective is, whether it's going to jumping into entrepreneurship or just taking the next step in your organization, what we're really talking about here is a lot of those core things that you can do. No one from right? No one can take away your why or your vision. No one can take away that discipline that you'll come to have, and that process and that perseverance. So really fascinating stuff. Okay, so if I'm understanding everything, and just to bring everyone up to speed, right? So Dr. Nguyen, practicing optometry, growing a family, having a great time doing it, and found along the way, though, that it came this time where she was discovering this kind of going through I guess a bit of a state of burnout, and kind of this rebirth, right? This
Yes.
rediscovery of
Mhm.
you and what you want to pursue
Yes.
and provide for others. And that was the origin of that vision and that why. So from there, getting out there and putting in the work. I'm still shocked, as I'm sure everyone is, when you say like you're a little nervous to go in front of the camera. And I think it's important to point out that once again, you're just going for it. And by the
I
way, you're doing a
am.
remarkable job doing it.
Thank you. Hands are all sweaty and palmy.
So here you are, you're plugging away. It all started with a part-time sales, entrepreneur
Mhm.
sales opportunity,
That was
challenging
nothing
yourself.
related to optometry.
Nothing related
Nothing
to
related to
optometry.
optometry.
That's fascinating. That's
Yes.
fascinating. And from there, started to push you out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
And I think at the same time, it's safe to say that it was pushing out of your comfort zone. You were seeing the results in yourself,
Yes.
in the audience, in the value you were bringing. And now, wow, okay, we're to this point in the story where you say you get your first ambassador gig. Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
So let's now dig a little bit deeper and start talking about. So if we understand our why and our vision. Now let's talk about actively growing the network, right? So we're talking about really launching this brand and
Mhm.
growing this personal brand, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about growing the network and start with maybe sharing, from your perspective, what role does someone's network play in positioning them to really live out their vision?
Well, it's quite important because who you connect to could be your next collaborator, or it could be somebody who introduces you to somebody who may collaborate with you. So it's hard to say that you only want to connect with somebody in your field of similarity, but you don't want to do that because if I only did that, then the only person I would know is people in the optical industry. I would miss out on the opportunity to know so many other wonderful people all over the world doing other things, because we can all contribute to our growth, and you don't know how the other person is going to help contribute back. But it's just amazing how, just knowing one person and knowing who they connect with, and just, I mean, it's a trickle effect. So it doesn't matter who you know from the first stage, but there's different, levels of knowing people, and you just want to connect with people. And I think it's important that you can learn from people from different areas of expertise, or even in different area of what's the right word here? Just where they can teach you something back. Because if I only watch
Absolutely.
people for ideas in the optical industry, it may not go very far, because there is not a lot of optometrists doing videos. So I learned from watching photographers, I learned from models, I learned from dance videos, I learned from comedians. I get their ideas and I flip it with an edge of optometry to it, so that I could share that. Because sometimes it is easier to mimic somebody's idea versus coming up with one for yourself. So you don't always have to come up with your own original ideas. You can always borrow someone's idea and then flip it so it's part of your own personality.
Absolutely. And you bring up something I think that's really important to point out here, and that's the degree to which, you know, we are all so unique in our skill sets, in our interests, in our emotions, and our fears. And quite frankly, there's so much to be had in connecting with others, exchanging ideas, at times where everyone's like, yeah, totally in agreement. Then at other times where also it takes some exploration and figuring things out, right? All of that really um contributes to, if you kind of look at where you are right now in your career, and I don't mean you personally, Dr. Nguyen, I mean, like, speaking to our audience, right? Speaking to the audience, right?
Yes.
Like, if we can each just kind of like look in the mirror and reflect on where we are in our career, it's really important to realize that, man, to a very big degree, our network and our relationships have very much had an impact in positioning us to be where we are now.
Yes.
So to take it a step further, then, if we realize that, hey, everyone's got unique strengths, how can we connect with as many complementary people with complementary strengths and skill sets out there? Then now let's talk about some of these mechanics of, like, growing the network in this new world. So talk about the role of tech, because I think there's something else that's really fascinating, in that we wouldn't have been having this type of conversation probably even 10 years ago. Well,
Yeah.
definitely not in a live streaming platform, but even the nature of this, so talk about the role of tech in growing your network.
It's fundamental. I mean, without technology, without social media, we could not reach the audience that we imagine or even envision. It's crazy. I mean, people that I see in my exam chair, that's, a couple hundreds a month, but the people that I can reach on social media is thousands, in the thousands, people that I would never meet if I never go to that country. So it's like, it plays such a huge role, and you can make so much impact just putting your voice out there, sharing your journey, sharing your up, sharing your down, because we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have failures. We're all struggling. But if we only paint pretty pictures, they don't always see that. But I do try to be the more positive side of it, so I don't put out my struggles as much, but I do put it out there once in a while, because it is frustrating, going through the entrepreneur journey, the no's, the hundreds of no's to the one yes, or the sacrifice that we have to give up hanging out with our family because we got a meeting or something. It is frustrating, but it does pay off. It does pay off, and that's what I want people to understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So talking about tech, now let's talk a little bit about platform selection, and, how you've come to really proactively grow your network, and maybe tips for viewers out there on, again, selecting your network, and then tips on how to actively grow that network. excuse me, select the platform and then actively grow your network of the platform.
Sure. So there's so many different platforms out there. You just have to find the one that you're most comfortable with. And that's the key word, most comfortable with. I would start out with just 3 because that's a lot of work already just to manage 3 different accounts. But a lot of times you can repurpose the same information on the different platforms. Maybe wording may be a little bit different. Um, but it just makes your life a lot easier than having to come up with 3 different set of content on a daily basis. So once you find your 3 top selection, now you have to figure out how they are the population age. So different platforms, the population age is going to be different. That's going to be utilizing that platform. So depending on your own age, the products or services that you plan on promoting in the future, that's where you kind of want to concentrate and figure out where they're hanging out and hang out where they're hanging out. So then you guys can, start mingling. So, you have to kind of like really put yourself out there, joining groups that you don't typically join, putting in your 2 cents on a discussion that you don't normally would want to discuss, just to get your name out there, but not selling yet. Again, the key here is you want to put yourself out there first, being just you before you start to try to push products or services on other people, because they have to find value in you as a person and the things that you're sharing before they would trust in the things that you're trying to, promote.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is such a critical um idea for everyone to really hold on to, right? And once again, whether you're growing your personal brand to launch into entrepreneurship, or you're simply growing your personal brand to further your value or your opportunities
Hmm.
across your career, right? It's to
Yes.
realize that, and I'll never forget this. One of my, my background was in sales, and I'll never forget one of these first learnings in sales that I'd read in a book long, long ago, and it was something like, you got to provide value first before you can expect value in return.
Hmm.
And it's so incredibly true. And I think now we live in a time where, given technology and what that empowers, the connection that we can have via these social media platforms, there's never been a more opportune time for those that really want to go for it. You've got great opportunities to bring that value out there to your audience.
Yes,
And
but you're also competing with a whole bunch of other people. So that's why
yes,
you have to kind of stand out somehow. And I think
yeah,
that, putting your own personal touches on the videos or the contents you put out there makes a huge difference. And if you can reiterate that on a day-to-day basis, it reminds people that, this is who Eric stands for. This is what Eric does. When Eric comes on, I'm almost pretty sure I will get at least one of these two of the 3, like, hit points, because he talks about the same thing over and over. So that's kind of what you want to do. You want to be consistent in your branding.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about, so we started with our vision, okay? And then from there, we've discovered our why. We're getting out there. We're leveraging technology to really grow our network, right? Talk a little bit about frequency of content engagement, right? Because you were also mentioning like the consistency of being sure that your content is in line with your brand. So talk a little bit maybe about frequency of posting, and also the role and value of reposting with those that are in a complementary vein as you may be.
Well, when you first start out, you may want to do more frequent posting. Again, it all depends on the platform that you're using. But at the beginning, I think I was posting like 2 to 3 times a day. Mixing in personal content versus something more along the line of the business, so that people can get an idea of what I'm trying to put out there. But once after like a year building the business consistently, I was able to back it down to just 1 post a day and not having to do so many posts, because it does get very cumbersome at time, because you're trying to think of like, what post am I going to put out today? What content I want to put out there? What am I going to share? And it gets, very frustrating if you can't find that information. And you feel like, oh, I'm going to I will be like 3 steps behind if I don't do that. But the thing is, you have to be lenient on yourself. You're just starting out. You can take breaks, but you want to just, find ways to whatever works for you. So every platform will have their own techniques. So you have to kind of figure out from some of the other people who are posting, like, how often should I post? And you got to see where they are in the journey. If you're looking at somebody who has like, 20,000 followers, chances are they've been doing this for a while. They probably don't post as often as somebody who only has like 10,000, 1,000 500, I don't know, something really small. So for the smaller your network is, you want to post it more frequently so they know who you are. And posting is good, but you can't forget that you also want to return the favor. You want to comment on people's posts. You want to connect with people offline. So being just posting is not going to do the trick. There was a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of conversations that was initiated that people don't see through my post that I put online. And that's what you want. You want to make sure that you are adding that value back behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Love it. So speaking of value, let's now transition our conversation. Again, for those viewers that maybe just joined us, Dr. Kristie Nguyen is hanging out with us here on Akrinos Access Live. We're talking about launching your personal brand. So we started the conversation talking about discovering your vision and your why. Then we were just talking about growing your network. Now we're focusing on really owning your presence out there and growing your personal brand across the socials. You mentioned value. Let's talk about the types of content: educational content, marketing content, call to action, how to balance those, how to weave those together. You're the expert. By the way, you're the expert. Like, I'm sitting here ready to take notes because you're clear. I know you're the expert. I have learned so much from you.
Well, it's trial and error. It really is just trial and error, because you got to figure out what works and what doesn't, and what your audience is looking for. And your audience is constantly going to be changing. So what worked this month may not work next month. So sometimes my picture posts do really well. Sometimes my video posts do really well. But sometimes my fashion posts do way better. My fashion posts always do better. But everybody likes to see somebody to be dressed up. But I just like to share different things. So you kind of, it's just trial and error. You can't post the same thing over and over, but then it gets kind of boring. So you're gonna have to kind of change it up a little bit, spice it up is what I call it. Put a little flair into it. Do something that you don't normally do, and that will always throw your audience off, because they're like, wait, what's she doing? So I throw in some humor, but educating, but also sometimes I'm promoting a product, or sometimes it's just me being out reminding people that they need to take time off for themselves. They can't be out there constantly and not refill their own cup, whether it be spiritually or physically. Just know that you're still human and you can do all these things, but you still need to take a break and be with your family who you're doing this for. So it's important that you do different things and just see what works the best. But mixing videos and pictures does work really well, using things that you are creating, not a template, not something that looks like it's been put together really nice by somebody who specializes in social media. Does much better because it's more personal.
Organic. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Organic posting, authenticity. I mean, aside from the fact that it's my understanding that all the algorithms from all the platforms, I think, are radically favoring organic
Yes.
over templated cookie cutter type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But also, aside from that, with the algorithms, to consider that, once again, and this common theme that we've had throughout this conversation that I think is such a lovely element of this, is the humanity of it. The fact that we are people, and that
Mm-hmm.
we've all got our strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities, threats, emotions, fears, the whole nine. And to be able to bring that out there in a very authentic manner. So I know something that sometimes entrepreneurs struggle with, right, is not so much the educational content, but when do you flip, and how do you effectively flip from being educational to that marketing piece? A perfect example is, we work with, doctors that are cold starting and purchasing practices, as well as doctors that are looking to further grow their independent practices. And, typically it's the educational content. There's no shortage of that. I mean, we could get the VT specialist talking about vision therapy and could fill scores of posts, right? But how do you balance from education to the call to action for that audience to then engage?
Well, it could be something simple as just one of your customers' reviews on your service. So it doesn't have to be like super salesy. It could be, just saying, "Oh my gosh, I love getting these 5-star reviews for our work. It just shows that, our expertise was able to help this doctor start their co-practice. So if you want to start your co-practice, go ahead and give us a call or a comment below with this emoji, whatever, and we'll get in touch. So it could be something simple like that where it's not super
Love it.
salesy.
Yeah. That's really great. It's really great because I think also that also can carry over into opening yourself for referrals as well, right?
Yes, yes.
It's about share with others. Hey, look, share the facts. People don't want
Yes.
fluff and foolishness. People want facts.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, a glowing 5-star review is a fact. And what is that fact? That hey, you did a great job.
Yes.
So what an exciting, inspired conversation here. So we've got just a few minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time and that of our audience. Again, for those of you that may be just joining us, we're hanging out here at Akrinos Access Live with Dr. Kristie Nguyen, talking about launching your personal brand. And we started the conversation off talking about discovering your vision and your personal why. Then we jumped into growing your network. And then we just explored a little bit about really owning your presence and the role of leveraging social media and technology through growing that brand to pursue whatever your ends are, right? Whether you're jumping into entrepreneurship and growing your business, or perhaps you're just looking to further expand and grow your network and perhaps take that next step within your organization. It's about really getting out there, discovering yourself, your vision, your why, bringing it to the forefront, bringing value to others. So Dr. Nguyen, as we're kind of wrapping things through here, there was something that you'll recall I had mentioned here when I sent you the notes prior with some of the outline of how the conversation was going to go. Something inspirational. You truly are. You are such an inspiration to so many people within eye care, but also it's fascinating to see all that you inspire outside of eye care. So maybe you can kind of take us on home, sharing just some inspiration for that one person out there that I know you and me agreed. By the way, audience, whether you're looking live or you're tuning in on a recording here, Dr. Nguyen and I agreed prior to going live that we had one goal. And what was that goal, Dr. Nguyen?
I can't remember right now.
To inspire that one person.
To inspire that one person. Yes.
Person.
I hadn't even thought about this, but I think I got it.
So what you got?
So it doesn't matter your age, because I started when I was in my late 30s that I was going to do something different. So it doesn't matter your age. If you want to dream, but don't dream small, dream big, and don't stop until you accomplish that dream. And once you're done, dream again, because that's what life is about. And each day is an opportunity to continue to make that dream come true.
I mean, that was pretty powerful. That was absolutely awesome. And Dr. Nguyen, I feel like we could go another half an hour. We'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Of course,
no doubt about it. Hey, before we wrap up, for those that want to continue the conversation with you and follow and see firsthand, and I'll say, to our viewers and listeners out there, if you're yet to connect with Dr. Nguyen, definitely seek her out on the socials. I know she's always open to sharing pearls and insights and inspirations, but also even just connect with her, just to simply observe and see kind of some of what we discussed here, see it really put to work. But Dr. Nguyen, how can folks connect with you?
My three top favorite platform is going to be LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. However, I did start a TikTok account, but it's pretty small still. And I just want to say thank you to Justo for his comment about the amazing journey or evolution. And I just want to say hi back to Whitney, who said hi.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Kristie Nguyen, thank you so much for joining us here on Akrinos Access Live, sharing your story and sharing some really great insights on how everyone can really own and launch their personal brand. For our viewers out there, thanks for joining us on Akrinos Access Live. For more great content like this, subscribe to the Akrinos YouTube channel, follow us across socials, and visit akrinos.com for the latest. And Dr. Nguyen, be well until next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.